push for the lifting of the restrictions imposed by the state of Qatar as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, the travel policies effective 1st of August 2020 have been reviewed based on public health indicators in Qatar and around the world. And there are certain questions which are frequently asked that we'll be discussing with you today. Which countries can I travel to and undergo home quarantine on return? The first list of low-risk countries for the COVID-19 has been released and published on the Ministry of Public Health's website and announced by the Qatar Civil Aviation Authority. Please note that the list of low-risk countries will be reviewed every 2 weeks and a new list will be published after every review on the Ministry of Public Health's website and announced by the Qatar Civil Aviation Authority. Arrivals to the state of Qatar from low-risk countries are required to take a COVID-19 test upon arrival at the airport and to sign a formal pledge to adhere to quarantine at home for a week, noting that the traveler's status on the Qatar's application will be yellow, which means that they are required to quarantine. Now, if you are coming from countries that are not low-risk with accredited COVID-19 testing centers, arrival from countries that are not included in the list of low-risk countries and in which COVID-19 testing centers have been accredited are required to obtain a virus-free certificate from there, no more than 48 hours before traveling. The arrivals must also adhere to the home quarantine for a week upon arrival in Doha, while also following the policy and conditions applied to arrivals from the low-risk countries mentioned before. Will I be tested during my period of home quarantine? After the week has elapsed, the traveler must go to one of the dedicated health centers to get another test done. If the result is positive, the traveler will be transferred to isolation, and if it is negative, the quarantine period ends at the end of that week and the traveler's status on the Qatar's application will change to green. Are there any requirements for taking home quarantine? Yes. There are 10 rules of home quarantine that you must adhere to. You must have suitable housing conditions with the availability of your own room and linked bathroom with your confine yourself to your own room and not mix with the rest of the family. You must sign an undertaking including all the family members and household helpers living in the same house to abide by the rules of home-based quarantine. You must watch a short video on board the flight before arrival and review the pamphlet on home quarantine. You must apply preventive measures at home to protect others. You must have a swab taken on day 6 after your arrival back to Doha at a designated drive-through primary healthcare center. You must answer the phone calls from the public health team during your home quarantine. You must agree to receive a visit from the public health team every 2 to 3 days. You must inform the public health team if you develop any symptoms like fever, cough, body aches, change in taste or smell. You must download the Qatar's application. You should not receive visitors while under home quarantine. Will my Qatar's status change when I return from travel? Yes. If you are coming from low-risk countries and countries that are not low-risk but have accredited COVID-19 testing centers. Upon arrival back to Doha's Hamad International Airport, your Qatar's status will change to yellow, that is quarantine mode. On day 6 of the home quarantine, you will be tested again by arranging a drive-through an appointment in one of the designated primary health centers. If the test is negative, you will be released from home quarantine on day 7 and your health status on Qatar's application will change to green. However, if this test result is positive, your Qatar's status will change to red. If you returned from countries that are not included in the list of low-risk countries and without accredited testing centers, in that scenario, your health status on Qatar's will remain yellow until your 1-week period of hotel quarantine. After the week has elapsed, the ending of the quarantine period will depend on the result of a COVID-19 test. If the result is positive, the traveler will be transferred to isolation, and if it is negative, the person will commit to home quarantine for another week, in which case the status on the Qatar's application will be yellow and then will be changed to green only after the week has passed. Do I have to have a COVID-19 test at Hamad International Airport if I am returning from countries with accredited COVID-19 testing centers? If there are accredited COVID-19 testing centers in the countries you are traveling from, obtaining a COVID-free certificate from one of these centers exempts the traveler from taking the test at the airport upon arrival in the country, provided that the date of obtaining the certificate doesn't exceed 48 hours before traveling. Is there any documentation that I must complete on my return to Qatar? Yes. Each traveler must complete and sign a health checklist for returning travelers' former card that will be distributed among passengers by cabin crew on board. On arrival back to Doha's Hamad International Airport, the form or the card is submitted to the medical officer. The form or the card includes questions about the individual's medical history and the rules of home quarantine. I have already booked my travel and hotel quarantine stay. Will I get a refund for the hotel quarantine? If you're traveling to an approved low-risk country and have already booked and paid to a hotel quarantine stay on your return to Qatar, you will be able to get a full refund for the hotel quarantine as you will be eligible for home quarantine. Contact Discover Qatar to request your refund. Can I undergo home quarantine if I travel to a country that is not on the official low-risk list? There are two ways to look at it. If you are traveling from a country that is not included in the low-risk list, but it has got the accredited testing centers. So if you present the certificate that you are tested negative to the authorities, in that case, you will follow exactly the same procedure, same principles that you were following for the low-risk list countries. But if you are traveling from a country that is not on the low-risk approved list, at the same time, they do not have accredited centers, in that case, you will have to undergo a 1-week period of hotel quarantine. You should book a hotel quarantine stay for 1 week from the listed hotels on the Discover Qatar website. And after the 6 days are over, again you will be tested. In case you are tested negative, in that case you will shift to home quarantine, and in case you are tested positive, in that scenario you will be put in the isolation ward. And your Athara's application status will depend on your results, whether it is positive or negative. Are there any exemptions from hotel quarantine for people returning from countries not on the low risk list? Yes. The following vulnerable groups returning from travel, Qatari and non-Qatari, and their immediate family members living in the same household, including their domestic helps, returning with them are eligible for home quarantine and not hotel quarantine. For all the latest updates, do follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Qatarday. At the same time, don't forget to visit our website, Qatarday.com.